Wanting to be just one of the gang, it was very devastating as a young kid. At 9 years old, I started to develop some musical skills in elementary school, where I took things like violin and choir, because wind instruments were not an option because of my issues. I also started playing guitar and tambourine and piano, things around what I was limited to do, so I was able to get around that. At one point in the 7th grade in my junior high school, I was walking with a friend of mine down a hallway in between classes, very crowded hallway, and I was always very cautious through crowds, and it was probably very visibly obvious to anyone noticing, but it was necessary to do. I was talking to a friend of mine, looking at my right to him, walking down the hallway, and all of a sudden I feel a very hard blow to my stomach. Someone, I never found out who, just randomly punched me in the stomach. I went down, unable to breathe at all. I was rushed to the school nurse and sent home. Went to my doctor for x-rays, and he saw that my left midsection was bruised. They said to me that if the punch were centered, it would have killed me. A couple of inches. Around the same time, I also had severe scoliosis, which was another side effect of Prune Belly Syndrome. And I had to wear a brace from my neck down to my hips throughout most of 8th grade. The brace was very uncomfortable, and it made sitting in little wooden desks impossible, the kinds that fold up in front of you like that. Couldn't sit in those because of the brace. Because the brace had a large metallic beam in the front, like a handle, holding everything together. So it was this big machine that I had to wear for a year. At 14 years old, I started playing music in school, talent shows, and the like, and gradually found somewhere where I could feel I was among my peers. A few years later, 1982, my doctors found a surgeon at what's now Winthrop Hospital. His name was Dr. Ralph Gurr. He specialized in breakthrough surgical methods, such as muscle transpositions for ulcer patients and accident victims. He was somewhat familiar with Prune Belly Syndrome, so we met. He takes some pictures of my stomach area, and after several visits, he's convinced that he can perform abdominal surgery on me, where he would take muscles from my thighs, basically. Your thighs have 4 muscles in it. They take one muscle out and flip it up into your stomach area from each side, and the rest of your muscles expand so you don't lose anything in your legs. That serves as a 95% correction to your missing muscles in your stomach. My doctor figured out he could do that and did it on me 30 years ago. He made me do a lot of bicycle riding and walking to build up those muscles, and he grafted them to the stomach area. The surgery was performed on August 18, 1982, and it was a success. The doctor took several more pictures after the surgery, and ever since then I have not really felt any of the effects of Prune Belly Syndrome that I did prior to the surgery. I try to live a happy life as a musician with lots of amazing, loving, supporting people around me, and I hope I do the same for them. I'm going to fast forward. 1998, my doctor called me, wants to meet up again. He wants to do a follow-up on how I'm doing. At that point, he was chief surgeon over at Nassau Medical Center in East Meadow. He asked me to meet him at the hospital and do a series of follow-up tests. He had me do x-rays and sit-ups and leg lifts and the works, and took new pictures. He was beside himself at how well I was doing, and had to remind me that I was incapable of doing any of those things before the surgery. If he had me sit on a gym bench and have my feet, like my legs hanging down, he says, "Okay, straighten your legs." "Okay, straighten my legs, no problem." He goes, "Frank, you couldn't lift your legs before the surgery." Yeah, same thing with the sit-ups. He says, "Lay down and do a crunch." Lay down and do a crunch. He goes, "You couldn't get your head off the ground before the surgery." That's how different this is what this has done for you. I even brought an x-ray of my scoliosis from back when, and that was never affected again after that. It stayed exactly the same. He took all this information and pictures, and he gathered it together and wrote an article for a medical journal called Clinical Anatomy, which is actually on the Prune Belly website. You can read the article he wrote about my surgery. For almost 25 years, that surgery was the only corrective muscle transposition surgery done on anyone for Prune Belly purposes. It wasn't until 2006, 24 years later, that we became aware of a family in Dallas, Texas, whose 7-year-old son had the operation done that was very similar to mine. I was made aware of it from the Prune Belly site. They contacted me. They said, do me a favor, call this family and find out what's going on. I called them up and I found out what was happening. It was very similar to my surgery, and a surgeon in Dallas, Texas, named Dr. Jeffrey Fearon was the one who did it. My doctors were uncertain I had it done at 15 years old. My doctor didn't know if you can go any younger than that because you're moving muscle around. They're not sure if it's going to grow properly if it's not in its original place. So he waited till I was 15 to do it. The doctor in Dallas, Texas is doing it on infants. He figured out you can do it no matter what your age is, and the muscle will grow properly with your body. He knew about my doctor's surgery, and he took it upon himself to do his own variation of it. I said that already. Hold on. He has since performed several other muscle transmission surgeries in Dallas on young babies from this. I was the first one to ever have it done. I believe there's about 9 others in 30 years. Not a great number, but better than we had. And actually, one of them is going to be here in a little while. My friend Nicholas is going to be here. He just turned 5 years old the other day. And he's another one who was not supposed to live past a year. So he's going to be here in a little bit. I want everybody to sign this card for him for his birthday. We're going to make a big deal of his birthday when he gets here. He's going to be a rock star a little later. So, yeah. Let's see. The surgery I had changed my life, and I highly recommend anyone capable of having it done for this reason to look into it. My uncertain days of daily up and down life with Prune Belly Syndrome are thankfully behind me. Through the surgery, my abdominal wall was 95% corrected at that age 15. I have the amazing opportunity to look back on what my life used to be, and for the longest time I took advantage of it and practically forgot about it, until I found the Prune Belly website and its members. When I found this website, prunebelly.org, I contacted the original owner of it, Brian Byrne, who has since passed away. I gave him all my information, and he was beside himself when hearing about it. He didn't know about this. I asked him, why is Prune Belly Syndrome not known like Parkinson's disease? He says, I have a 3-word answer for you. Michael J. Fox. He says, only at that point will someone like his stature to come out and say, I have this. Then people will want to listen. So, we don't have a Michael J. Fox, so we're trying through our own methods to get the word out. Because it's as important, if not more, than something like that.
We got Frank Walker.
No.
By the way, Michael J. Fox is 2 words in a letter.
Well, fine. That's true. That works too. Okay, this website reminded me of my previous life, and it showed me that people still deal with Prune Belly now just as much, or if not worse, than I did back then. My hope is that my personal Prune Belly outcome can help other people's outcomes as well, and that's what I'm here to try to make happen. I want every child and an adult with Prune Belly to have at least the same opportunities I've had. The thing is, some of them are not. I mentioned before that on February 1st, we were made aware of a baby born 8 o'clock that morning, died 9 o'clock that morning, from the same thing I was born with, and that's what is unacceptable to me. There's no reason for that. If I can get to 46, he can make it past an hour. Unacceptable. That's why we're making a big deal of Nick when he gets here, because 5 is a big deal for him. We're going to make a big deal of him when he gets here. In 2002, I wrote to the Muscular Dystrophy Association, which is the one that Jerry Lewis used to host the telethons for. I asked them to consider including Prune Belly Syndrome as one of their over 40 muscular conditions they cover and research. They said, okay, let's look into it, we'll get back to you. About a week later, they called me back. They politely declined, saying it's not the same kind of muscular conditions they cover. Theirs cover conditions where you have the muscle at first and you lose it within time. It's the opposite of what we have. We have no muscle to begin with, and if you're lucky, you get a surgery to get the muscles. We can't cover that, they said. But what I can't help wondering is if we get enough public support behind us, maybe they'd reconsider at some point. They usually break their own records every year during their telethons, where they're in the $60 million range. Any portion of any of that would help us. One more condition to cover under $60 million, we can handle that. I never met another person with Prune Belly Syndrome until I was 35 years old. Before then, I thought I was by myself. all of us at some point feel as if we're alone until we found this website and realize there's thousands of people in the world that have this and are feeling the same way we're feeling about it. They feel like they're alone. So with that in mind, I wrote a song 9 years ago about that. It's called Not the Only One. And if everything's on and going here, I want to try to sing it for you with help from Joanna Monte. She's here somewhere. Here she is, okay. Listen to the words of the song, because it describes what we all feel about, all those of us who have Prune Belly Syndrome, it describes what we're feeling about needing the help. So, can you...